Hi, I'm Scott Perkins, the author of Howard Carter Saves the World. I wanted to welcome everybody to my launch party. We had so many friends and family who are overseas that an online launch party seemed to be the way to go, and something my publisher wanted to set up because they're based in the UK, so this is great. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to do a couple of readings. The first reading is the prologue of the book, and we start in medias res, in the middle of the action, and then flashback to earlier to explain how we got there, sort of a cold open. Bob Angles had been a farmer his entire life. He had never known anything except the smell of tractor exhaust fumes and the pleasant sight of acres and acres of the green and growing. It began as a normal morning of mumbled pleasantries around the breakfast table as he and his family tried to chase away the phantoms of sleep with coffee and flapjacks. The doorbell rang, and they glanced at one another and then over at the front door. No one who knew them ever came to the front door. Friends and family entered and exited through the kitchen as was right and proper. They lived too far from town for salesmen or missionaries to bother. The world left his family to fend for themselves for brushes and salvation. Then the tractor walked past the kitchen window. Lumbered, he supposed was a better word for it. Sort of a slow, ponderous march across the backyard. It took Bob a minute to get from, "Oh, that's odd," to all the way to, "Tractors aren't supposed to do that." The family rose as one to watch the big green tractor step almost daintily over the back fence and strike out across the field in big loping strides. The doorbell rang again. "Zeke, get the door," Bob told his eldest son. "Mabel, fetch my shotgun." What good's a shotgun going to do? Bob didn't know. He only felt that's what his daddy would do, and somehow he felt like it was the right thing to do when their farm equipment was trying to make a break for it. His hands ached for the smooth surface of that walnut stalk. He heard voices from the hall and turned to find Zeke leading a younger boy into the kitchen. The kid was dressed in a suit and tie, but looked like he'd been sleeping in a ditch for a week. He had a copper trash can tucked under his arm that had been fashioned into a sort of helmet. "Who is this?" "I'm Howard Carter, sir." The boy stuck out his hand. The fingernails were dirty with axle grease, and Bob Angles had the feeling he was about to find out why his tractor was running away. His hands itched for that shotgun or a hickory switch. Teach the little hooligan a lesson. The first flying saucer shattered the front window as it roared over the house. Everyone ducked, everyone except Howard Carter. He stared up at the shaking ceiling with the look of someone facing an algebra test that they'd stayed up all night studying for, resigned but ready. What was the second flying saucer drowned out the rest of Bob's question. He looked up to find the boy watching him. "I'm sorry about your tractors. I promise I'll try to get them back to you in one piece." The boy led the way out into the garage, the Angles family following in behind him like soldiers behind a general. Outside, the sky was alight in a sickly green glow, and one of the neighbor's big red harvesters was tapping its foot, waiting impatiently for the boy as more flying saucers filled the sky with a sickly glow. "When the government gets here, tell them to keep their distance," Howard Carter shouted, over the whine of the spaceships. Bob Angles nodded dumbly. What could he say to this odd boy and his robot army? "What is this?" Bob finally shouted. "What are you going to do?" The boy glanced up at the sky and gave Bob a resigned smile. "I'm going to save the world." The giant robot bent down and plucked the kid off the driveway, raised him to sit on his mighty shoulder. The Angles family waved as Howard put the copper helmet on his head and pointed his robot across the fields in the direction of the glowing woods. Bob turned to his family. He caught a glimpse out of the corner of his eye of the battered old farm truck watching them from the shadows of the garage. "Well, what are you waiting for? You might as well get after him." The truck flashed its headlights and sprinted off down the driveway and across the culvert, while overhead the saucers began to circle and land.